Say something hideous and horrible jumps out at you. Something so disgusting that it simply must die. So tacky. I can't look directly at it. But I control those feelings. Focus them, concentrate, and release. And the world is a better place. Your turn.
Hello.
Sorry, I touched him. Do you feel like you have an audience?
Yeah, what? An audience? Well, this is
a peanut gallery.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming to Double Fine.
That's something we didn't talk about. The name Double Fine.
Double Fine?
You don't even have a logo anywhere.
What? That's the baby, huh? Have you seen my card?
Oh, I'm gonna get his card.
There you are. Nice.
Double-headed
Double
baby.
Fine. Yeah.
So, yeah, what does it mean?
Double Fine, the name Double Fine comes from there's a sign on the Golden Gate Bridge, slow to 45, Double Fine Zone. It's like I just always thought it would look like if you named a company that, people would think you bought a sign on the bridge and you have really great advertising. And the whole city is a Double Fine Zone. Mm-hmm.
So why didn't you get a sign? That would have been cool.
That costs money. It's easier to find a sign and then change your name to be what's on the sign. So it's cheaper.
Right.
Yeah.
And when did you start the company?
We started the company in 2000. Yeah, and started working on this game, kicking around ideas for Psychonauts.
Yeah, where'd you go? Like, it's been, what, 5 years?
No, that's not 5 years. You know, there's a lot of time thinking. Then you got to buy a fax machine. That's like a year right there. And setting up the kitchen, buying all the soda. It's a lot of stuff to do when you start a company.
No kidding. So, where'd you find time to make a game?
Lately we found some time to make the game. The last year or two.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Psychonauts.
You're running around in a world that is it's immediately accessible and entertaining in the way that a console game is, but then as you get into it and dig into it, you find a depth that you would normally find in a graphic adventure from the classic days of graphic adventures.
Which you have some minimal background with.
Yes. Yeah, I like those graphic adventures. I mean, I like what's that doing there? I mean, stuff like Grimm, it's just really fun to bring a strange world to life. That's the fun thing to me about making these games, to think about when the first time I saw the Day of the Dead characters and thinking about how great it would be to see them running around and in those little statues, they're going shopping, going to the dentist. It would just be so great to see that world come to life. When you're walking around in San Francisco, you see these crazy people talking to themselves, and you're like, what is it like inside their heads, and how fun would it be to jump inside and see what's going on, who they're talking to, and or if you meet someone who's got some strange personality, like you just know that it's represented in their head in some crazy way. So Raz in the game gets to actually jump into people's heads and run around their imaginary world. And if someone's got a nightmare or a personal demon or some emotional baggage, he actually gets to go in there and see it and maybe fight it or, steal it.
And talk a little bit about the graphic style, because that's something that's obviously such a signature of your work, and obviously very apparent to this game.
Well, I always like working with really good artists, and in past games I worked with like Peter Chan and Greg Van Dango, and he worked on this game too, designing a lot of our backgrounds. And our art director, Scott Campbell, has a really unique style, and he does so many great drawings a day that we wanted to put more of them in the game than normally would. Like, he does great character designs, and so our characters, the modelers, have done a really good job of capturing that in the 3D model. But then also we've taken a lot of his 2D drawings and stuck them in the game as like a 2D element to kind of composite it in with the 3D art. And we're calling those figments. They're like figments of people's imagination, and they're little kind of ghostly thoughts or memories that people are having. And if you pass through them, they disappear and they vanish. But you can look at them later. You can collect them, kind of like a little butterfly collection in your book. You can look at them, and they all tell a little piece of the story of the mind that you're traveling through. I really think games should, that when you're playing a game, you should feel like this is the game only Double Fine could have made, and you feel that for any game that you play, like only like the Planet Moon guys could have pulled this off. So like they're unique to the games can be personal statements, just like a movie or something like that. And you didn't, a lot of times you play a game that's like any development studio could have made this. So I don't think. And people do that because I think they're often afraid to put themselves in their games or to make their games stand out and be different. because if it goes wrong, it'll get blamed on that. It'll be like, oh, you put too much of this humor in the game or something like that. You know, no one likes that stuff. And I don't think that's true. I think people, when they're playing games, are really dying for something that's not like every single other game they played that year. Because there's so many games coming out that are very, very similar, you know?
Oh, stupid. That's got to be the worst band name I have ever heard in the history of all time, ever.
I am definitely going to need audio.
You know that cabin is empty, right?
Duh. I'm practicing for tonight, when it's gonna be full of ladies.
That kind of thing takes practice?
Excuse me, but my parents let me watch R-rated movies, so I think I know a little bit more about this than you do, okay? Yeah!
So what's your personal statement then with
Wow.
Psychonauts?
So,
What does it say about you?
well, I'm not trying to make a personal statement with the game. It's just that it's a personal, like it's set in a summer camp, and it has tons of my own personal memories from summer camp in it, you know, and the fun of digging through the woods and finding like some old skull in a cave, which really sounds more like a memory that someone else had, because I never found a skull in a cave. But I always wanted to find a skull in a cave. So in this game, you do find a skull in a cave, and it's great.
And there's things like talk about like things like emotional baggage and some of the humor, crazy stuff you have in there.
But you can there are a lot of jokes in Psychonauts where we're playing off literalizing some abstract concept like emotional baggage. You hear about how everyone has emotional baggage, right? And we all have it. And you go in people's minds in this game, and you actually see the baggage. There's a steamer trunk, there's a hat box, there's a suitcase, and you find the corresponding tag, and you sort the emotional baggage for people, and it helps them out, and it helps you in the game progress and earn more psychic powers. And so you can see people's mental cobwebs in the areas of their minds they don't go that often, and you can see people's demons and people's nightmares, and you can fight with them. And so some of them are bad puns that I just can't help but make, but also I love those kind of jokes.
Where do your ideas come from? Like,
where? Well,
like is one of these worlds or levels, is that inside your brain?
No. We thought about that, because you could go into the game designer's brain and change the puzzles in the game if you wanted to, but some of the levels are based on, one of them was based on a crazy guy who used to hang around our old office, and there's a conspiracy theory nut, and there's a whole conspiracy theory level based on some of the theories he used to tell us about how the government was watching him through all the broken glass on the street. And a lot of the dialogue that the character says in the game came from that guy, although I changed it. So it's mine.
Did he have psychic powers?
Yes, he did have psychic powers. Every time I was around him, I felt strangely hot. I think he was trying to set me on fire.
Talk a little bit about some of the powers that you have.
Raz can earn merit badges when he's at camp. In telekinesis, he can pick things up with his mind and throw them. He can set fire to things. He can confuse his enemies, and he can make himself invisible by making no one else be able to see him. He can charge up his thoughts and shoot them at people like a second beam that comes out of his head, which turns out to be why the bad guy in the game was trying to steal his brain, because he can put it inside this armored death tank and then squeeze it and make it shoot this strong, like Ark of the Covenant type blast out and take out his enemies, which happened to be you. But the ideas for the game started years earlier. There were some elements in Full Throttle. I was trying to put an interactive dream sequence in that game, and that eventually got cut. And then I was trying to do it in the next game, and then I was going to do a whole game about something else that I was trying to sneak that into, and then I was like, okay, let's make a whole game about this premise, because it's really a flexible, like, you can do anything. If you can jump into someone's head, you can have each level in the game be so different, and each level in our game is different, like different art style and different gameplay techniques based on the person's brain. Like, some of them are really fast-paced and action-oriented because the person's got a lot of nightmares going in their brain, and some of them, some of them are more puzzly because that character was playing a puzzle game, when they went insane. And you go in there and you see it, and you have to fix it for them.
Has it been more challenging for you to develop more of a platformer versus a strict adventure in terms of still getting in all those elements that you like to have in there?
Well, we spent a lot of time, because I knew we could do the story and the art stuff, so we immediately went to work on making the game feel really good. So we'd meet over and over and over again about each one of Raz's moves and how it times out and how it feels to climb on a ledge and climb a ladder, and how fast should you spin around these bars, and tested it out a lot because we wanted to make sure the game felt really really good, because that's something we hadn't done a lot with graphic adventures, you know, and I think that's something that kept some of the audience away from graphic adventures, is that there's not a lot of emphasis put on how do they feel, and are they easy to glide through and pick up and jump around, and are they dynamic, and does your character do all these crazy dynamic moves, you know. So that was a whole new thing for us to work on, and that was actually really fun.
What do you think was the biggest challenge for you so far?
Into the game?
Yeah.
The biggest challenge is there's a lot going to a completely like open 3D world. There's just so many more variables and things you have to keep track of. And in a graphic adventure, you can, by the time we did Grimm, I could predict, I'd just say, this is the plan. Every single puzzle, every single scene is going to be like this. And I could write it all out in advance, and then we just implemented that. With Psychonauts, we made a plan and implemented the first part of it, and there's a large chunk of it you think is going to work and doesn't work. So you go back and you redesign that part and you make that part work. So there's a lot more trying stuff out and experimenting with stuff and then testing it. And you have to do a lot more testing with players, and because the stuff that you think is going to work doesn't necessarily always work.
You're late, soldier. Now get in here and give me 20.